Welcome, everyone, to Insights on Caribbean Intellectual Property, the official podcast of the Caribbean and America's Intellectual Property Organization. I'm your host, Michael Forrester, here to guide you through today's key discussions on Caribbean intellectual property. Today, our topic is navigating innovation and IP policy challenges in the Caribbean community. From the research paper by Dr. Abiola Innes titled The Making of Policy on Intellectual Property, Innovation and Technology Within the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, and the International Agenda, we discuss that the Caribbean community, CARICOM, has struggled for over 3 decades with developing and implementing effective policies around intellectual property rights, IPRs, innovation, and technology. This challenge reflects a broader debate about how developing regions can advance technologically while navigating complex economic and social constraints. The discourse around innovation and technology has become deeply intertwined with narratives about developing countries' advancement. Some advocates even suggest reclassifying global categories from developed, developing, to technology-rich, technology-poor. However, this oversimplified view fails to account for the complex economic dynamics that underpin these classifications. The United Nations World Economic Situation and Prospects Report maintains 3 distinct categories: developing economies, economies in transition, and developed economies. International organizations have consistently attempted to raise awareness and usage of intellectual property rights in the Caribbean region through workshops, seminars, and training sessions. These initiatives, while well-intentioned, often target private sector actors and public officials who have limited influence on policy-making. The efforts typically follow a bottom-up approach that assumes demonstrating innovation's value and providing brief mentorship will catalyze sustainable change. The motivation behind these international initiatives isn't purely philanthropic. Developed countries stand to gain substantial economic advantages by addressing the imbalanced relationship where billions in potential revenues are lost due to weak innovation and intellectual property frameworks in developing regions. Many of these programs focus more heavily on implementing intellectual property rights than on fostering genuine innovation. Some academics and development organizations argue that developing countries can bridge the technology gap by adopting older technologies from developed nations, with globalization acting as an accelerant. The widespread adoption of mobile phones across Africa is often cited as a success story. However, other technologies have shown limited success in widespread adaptation, often due to knowledge gaps, local applicability issues, and resource constraints that keep beneficial technologies confined to privileged segments of society. The case of Singapore demonstrates how government economic policy centered on science and technology can transform a nation's prospects, with the country now ranking among the world's wealthiest. This success contrasts sharply with the current approach in the Caribbean, where short-term projects fail to institutionalize innovation culture or technological development. In 2020, the European Union launched CAAIPO, a major 4-year project in CARIFORUM, CARICOM, and the Dominican Republic, aimed at increasing intellectual property awareness and utilization. However, without adequate personnel, infrastructure, and supporting policies and laws, such initiatives risk becoming interesting experiences for participants without creating lasting systemic change. A fundamental structural challenge is that, unlike the European Union, CARICOM lacks an overarching legal and regulatory framework binding its 15 member countries. While the organization has mechanisms for legal dispute resolution through the Caribbean Court of Justice and Economic Development through the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, each member state maintains autonomy over IP policies and legislation. Though all CARICOM countries have signed the TRIPS agreement, few have enacted legislation implementing its required standards. Research has revealed some surprising findings about innovation in the region. A 2017 study examining 4 major CARICOM economies conducted by Dr. Abiola Innes found that Guyana showed the highest level of innovation among small and medium enterprises despite having the weakest IP laws and enforcement. This challenges conventional wisdom about the relationship between strong IPRs and innovation rates. The region faces pressing challenges requiring technological solutions, including food security, climate change adaptation, water resource management, marine biology, and forest conservation. Rather than wholesale technology transfer, the Caribbean needs to develop locally appropriate solutions through knowledge exchange and indigenous innovation. The current state of innovation varies significantly across the region. The WPO Innovation Index 2023 categorizes countries by income level and innovation performance. Jamaica stands out as an upper-middle-income country with higher-than-expected innovation performance, while Trinidad and Tobago is classified as high-income but without special innovation categorization. Both countries have specialized IP offices and modern laws, but unclear enforcement levels. The competing arguments about whether private sector or government should drive innovation and technology development persist in CARICOM countries, despite clear evidence from countries like the United States, India, Chile, Argentina, and Brazil that both sectors play vital complementary roles. Government science programs can provide greater balance between public access to technological developments and private sector profitability. To create meaningful change, the paper suggests several potential solutions. Individual CARICOM countries could implement science and technology programs modeled on successful examples from other developing nations. Establishment of a regional science and technology agency to coordinate. Collaboration between scientific institutions. University partnerships. Private sector engagement. Funding mechanisms for inventors. Dedicated government resources as a fixed percentage of GDP. Development of supporting infrastructure and enforcement mechanisms. Evidence-based policymaking informed by scholarly research. Balance between public and private sector initiatives. The path forward requires moving beyond piecemeal promotional projects to comprehensive policy planning and evaluation. This includes developing frameworks that protect intellectual property while fostering indigenous innovation and technology development. Without such fundamental changes, the CARICOM region risks continued technological stagnation while international organizations pursue their own agendas under the guise of leadership. Success requires balancing international standards with local needs and capabilities, while creating sustainable structures for scientific and technological advancement. This necessitates moving beyond simple IP promotion to develop holistic approaches that connect innovation, technology development, and intellectual property protection in ways that serve regional interests and address pressing challenges like food security, climate change adaptation, and resource conservation. Thank you for tuning in to today's insights. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to share them with us. Visit our website at www.CAAIPO.org or connect with us on our Facebook page. See you next time on the Insights on Caribbean Intellectual Property podcast.